minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All ayes. Minutes have been approved. Is there any additions?
We had a couple of things that came in late yesterday after the agenda had been sent out. So we need to listen to Dr. Bullock on an off-site system backup location, and we have a transfer for our safety.
I will propose that we amend the agenda to include Dr. Bullock's discussion and the transfer.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All ayes. Amendment has been approved.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All ayes. The agenda has been approved. Citizens to be heard. Nothing here.
Dr. Bullock can't be here till 10:45, but last week when Tom Schutz was here from Group Services, we talked about kind of the summary or annual report, I guess, for last year's county group health coverage program. And the premiums that we budgeted for versus what was the actual expenditures allowed us to transfer $46,787.40 into that safety fund. So we didn't do that during the year, so that's the amount that they're recommending that we transfer.
What was the amount again? 46 what?
$46,787.40. And then our projected deposits from the department budgets to the safety fund for this year, the monthly health fund deposit will be $11,846.37, and then the balance of what we don't spend then would be what will be in that safety fund for that fund balance.
Okay.
So we just need to make that transfer of $46,787.
I will move to make that transfer to the safety fund of $46,787.40.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All ayes. Fund will be transferred. Exactly what is that safety fund used for?
That's our self-fund.
That's
Self-fund?
Yeah,
Self-fund.
yeah. And then with the balance of what we don't spend towards premium,
Put in.
we can choose to buy down the premium for the next year.
Do you have any, anybody have anything else, right?
I got just a question. We got a notice from Cenex over here, the Crossroads convenience place. We buy our diesel fuel over there for our lawnmower. And then we got a notice the other day that they're closing all local charge accounts. So what they're doing is encouraging credit cards. So I guess we're going to have to go with credit cards.
I didn't realize that they even had a charge account. I mean,
Yeah, that's what all we use it, just for the lawnmower, for snow removal and mowing the grass. So it's pretty handy to
It'd be
get
better than having our own tank.
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
quality, fuel quality and stuff. It's just not worth it.
And it's so close.
So I guess that's our only other option.
So do you intend to,
Do we put a credit
that
limit on
you
that?
will take care of that and you'll get it through the auditor's office? Is that your intention?
Yeah.
Just a Cenex credit card or a general? Don't they
It'll be
have
just-
credit cards?
Well, I really haven't looked at the whole program, but they sent us the application. It'll just be for the Senex.
Right.
So that's all I got. Until Dr. Bullock can say.
We should probably, and I haven't got to see him personally, but we need to congratulate Ben on his success in the
His car's up.
recent trial, and thank him and his all the folks who were associated with it for their hard work.
If there's nothing else, we'll recess until Dr. Bullock.
Good job.
Yeah, you guys don't know how appreciative I am of your guys' support through this. I know that there's going to be cost, and something that we discussed before this, and everything was done as economically as possible. You don't know how many people have come up to me and said, they just said you can't put a price on something like this. You can't put a price on I don't even say justice or making sure everything is done right. But you guys, knowing that I had your support and knowing that I didn't have to worry about that when I got back, made it a lot easier. It really did, and we did the right thing. And you guys were instrumental, and not everybody was. So I don't know how else to thank you, allowing the assistants to take some additional payments, for their help, which, as Rick probably knows better than anybody, Norma's kind of been the de facto county attorney for about 3 months now, and she's taken on a lot more than probably she could have ever thought. But I think these congratulations. This is a great day for the county. And this isn't a great day for our office. This is a great day, for everybody. Law enforcement in this county, vindicated. So, but I just need you guys to know how much I appreciate your support through all this. It was pretty dark there for a while, I know, but we got through it, and we did the right thing, I think. So.
I had a conversation with the sheriff, and that through this whole process, we didn't, clear back in 2001, had next to no experience with anything like this, and it's a learning process for everyone, and so I think I think it's everyone learned a lot. Everybody.
Visiting with people in the community and the county, one comment that came up is, in counties such as ours, law enforcement and the county attorney's office rely, heavily on state DCI and the attorney general's office. The investigations, like you said, they don't handle a lot of it, and if the state doesn't get involved aggressively and with helping, it does have an impact on the outcome. And I think people, like Ben said, I don't think people are pointing fingers. They're just kind of glad there's been some resolution, and even no matter what happens beyond this, there's been resolution, and the process has worked.
And you, as your first year, and in our sheriff's department now, I think I learned a lot just listening, and I think it's been a real learning experience for everyone.
That's one of the things that, as Doug moved in, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but we kind of overtook your office, your meeting room for an entire week, and we had everything kind of set up here, as Doug came in, he was, Doug's, and I say Doug, Doug Cameron, he prosecuted about 40 some odd murders. I think has a pretty high conviction rate, but he would point out things to me that I never thought to do, and we shored those things up, and then, we found the answers to them. The DCI learned a lot. There were certain things that could have been done in the last 10 years, and I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Like I never thought the day would come where I could go back in there and not have to start working on something on this thing. It's just I appreciate you guys understanding, although I might have come off as a bit crazy at first. It was just apparent to me, and until you actually sit through this thing, and until you actually have read everything, it made me sick to know that was still there. And I think eventually, I'd like to think, I know you guys came around and been very supportive and understanding.
Well, I think we all thought she was guilty, but we didn't know whether there was enough evidence to prove it. But we think what can be proven a lot of times two different things.
And that's what information we get, and through all this time was very little. And then as this thing opened up, we were reading things in the paper or seeing things that that we certainly were not aware of. And
yeah, there was. I mean, you guys. I don't know if you're aware or not. You probably are by now. But there was certain testimony that was given by a former official from this county, and I'm quite convinced that a large portion of that is not accurate, and that's per the DCI agent that he was working with. That's per audio recordings that we have in our possession, and whether there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding, I think that what is apparent is that what you guys knew about this before last year probably either. I mean, I don't think there was any intentional misleading. I just think that I don't know how to say this. I just think that there was a lot more to it than you were led to know.
well, and that's we don't get involved in those things, and we don't ask questions. That's the sheriff's and the county attorney's departments, and we learned a lot of this information through the trial.
Yeah.
Most elected officials, we have very little oversight. We have fiscal oversight that for us to get directly involved in trying to micromanage,
No.
we just can't go there unless we think there's something grievous.
No, and I'm not trying to infer that. I'm just.
But it was out there, but it was under a lot of layers of years.
A lot of factors,
Yeah.
time and memory, and
Well, back then there was a lot of turnover in
Oh,
the
yeah.
county attorney's office.
yeah.
We had a part, Pam was here, and then Dave was, you have to describe as kind of a part-time.
Interim.
And, he had a private practice, and he was busy, and it was different then. And Earl came, and he was really the first, he wanted to be a full-time county attorney.
But then your DCI agent was ready to be retired or ready to retire. And I think that, because I know he was a good agent.
I was a great agent.
Years,
Star. I've said this the whole time. I mean, the stars aligned for this to kind of fall through the cracks. And you had turnover at the county attorney's office shortly after the incident. I don't know when Pam Devin left, but she left not too long after.
I started in the fall of 2001, and she was here just a brief time. And then we had interim of Dave, and then
Earl.
we had vacancy, and then Earl came,
And then you had the DCI agent. You had who had done everything that he could up to that point. You had a retirement Lieutenant Sesford, who was the lead on the case. Dan Mosier, fall on 9/11, got put on some FBI task force. It just, there wasn't. Like I said, if there was a way for it to fall through, I hate to say fall through the cracks, but if there's a way for things to be, missed or the pieces not to be put together, or communication to drop off, I mean that's the perfect combination.
I said,
oh yeah.
I sat there and I have trouble remembering what I did last month, let alone 10 years ago and last month. That's, for for Dennis Sussford to have to go back and recall it. I mean, he's been out of law enforcement for what, 7 or 8 years probably. Wow.
Is he still with MOCI?
Yeah.
That's a good organization.
So just a lot of things.
Some crimes are more, and some are more cleverly. A lot of crimes, there's the heat of passion, or there's alcohol involved, or it's members of the family. But sometimes when you have a situation like this person is pretty clever and thought, visiting with attorneys or people.
Ben,
there's a lot of thought.
how much involvement will the Sac County Attorney's Office be, will there be for the Sac County Attorney's Office in this retrial or appeal?
We won't have any. They might call and ask me questions about the record that was made, because that's the only thing that's up for appeal. Anything that they preserved error on for objections that were overruled and that were offered up to the court. My experience with appeals is that the county level, the Attorney General's office handles all the appeals.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they don't call and say, well, this doesn't make sense. What happened in this instance?
Sure.
That's will be the extent of our involvement at this point. The motion for the new trial is a standard thing. That's the first thing they ask for after a conviction. The same way that they ask for the judgment of acquittal after we rested our case. It's standard. Same thing, they renewed that same motion after the trial. Those things are all standard. But from this point forward, the Attorney General's office appellate division handles the criminal aspect of it. So,
and we would not have any financial participation.
Right.
The only way that
no.
the only way that we could have is
On this one.
if we were directed to retry.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
That's it.
we're out of the loop.
Yeah.
Really?
Everything at this point.
Well, that's
good news.
It is.
Have you seen the motion to retry yet?
No. Have you?
No.
I don't know what it would be for. I mean, from what I understand, these are fairly standard things. The grounds. I don't know if there'd be anything specific, but who knows?
Was that sentence, is the life sentence mandatory?
Yeah.
Why did he
Murder one.
refer that then to the Department of Corrections for case?
That's what they do.
Really?
I don't think there's any discretion in the code for. I don't think the code gives discretion for when they order a PSI when they don't. I mean, it's probably one of those things that maybe they need to change that. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but at the same time.
We talked about, my wife is retired from the Department of Corrections after 28 years. We wondered about that.
There was
That happens with every single crime, though, right?
Yeah,
Every
there's
single
just no
thing?
discretion. I think that automatically, like in this case, it's a Class A felony conviction. It's an automatic appeal. I mean, that goes up with whether or not she wants to. Of course, she wants to, but that's.
one question I was going to ask your opinion on. I found it somewhat bizarre that they included an option of murder 2. And my understanding of murder 2 is that it's not the premeditated, pre-planned. And when I sat back and thought it over, you either planned it and did the action, which means murder 1, or you didn't do it. And I found that really strange that they threw the murder 2 possibility in the mix. Did you find that weird?
We wanted it in there. The defense counsel asked that it be taken out, and it'll only be murder one or nothing. Whether it's right or wrong, I agree 100%. You either have justification or you don't. Murder one, murder two. You either have the justification defense and they find that it has merit, or they don't in that instance. But and this is just me thinking why it was a good idea to keep it in. And I mean, obviously it wasn't. I was the one only making that decision to keep that in, but oftentimes you'll have juries that may compromise. And I'm not saying that their interpretation of the elements may be different than mine, but that's why they're the jury. And as long as that's there as an option, it's not, maybe they could have just said, well, maybe the state, came close, we maybe feel some sympathy. Who knows? But as long as that's there, that's for the jury to decide. I mean, if they would have found a reason to convict on
You take it.
I take it, absolutely.
But I just
You're 100% accurate.
After I thought
It's
about it.
nonsensical. I mean, if you're gonna on murder one, the elements for murder one necessarily, the justification defense would be the same for murder two.
Well, my question about that is, wouldn't it still be intent if the last 3 bullets happened 15 minutes later?
I mean, that's for the jury to decide.
But I mean, would that be a justification for murder too?
The justification, the defense of justification, the elements for that defense are the same for murder one and murder two. Now, what you're asking is, the jury question. A question for the jury is something that if the jury did decide that that 15 minutes or there was some time lapse and that was the basis for their verdict. I don't know whether that had anything to do with it or not, but that intent element changes in murder two. It was a specific intent in murder one, meaning you specifically intended that this person died. Murder two, this general intent, where your mind, you didn't necessarily form that. It's a complicated. I tell you what, I didn't even understand the difference between specific and general until I was out of law school. I mean, it's very complicated.
My thought of it was premeditated or not premeditated. The difference between one and two.
It's the mental state. You either form that intent in your mind before you did the act. The other one doesn't require that. You're exactly right. So why that's in there? They want to get compromise and find if they would have found one. That's 50-year mandatory. Forcible felony, 75%. The other shit is about 37, 38 years.
Oh.
But we didn't have to go down there,
So if somebody wants to write a book and make
don't
a
come
movie,
talk to me. I'm out. I'm done. This is.
I just wondered how that. I think a lot of people think there's a good chance there might be something done with it.
Well, they got something that was going to float by the board. It didn't necessarily have to be today or tomorrow, but I know that Sac County, a lot of members, probably a fairly significant percentage of people in Sac County are members of the NRA. Maybe not. I'm just guessing based on or the demographics, but I know that the NRA gave a sizable amount of money to Tracy for her civil defense, and I'm going to ask them that they match that for our coffers. They gave it to her without even reading her story. They read her story and they bought it or whatever. But I think it's a show of goodwill. I think that's something I will be asking for, maybe, and have the board sign off on that. And they can tell us to go pound sand. But I think that's that might be something that can help alleviate, maybe. It's something to think about, I guess. I don't know how much she was given in the wrongful death. I've only heard just secondhand from
That was dismissed, though, right? That didn't ever go forward.
It got dismissed. Whoever you want to believe, I personally think, and I know, based upon what the plaintiffs, the estate dismissed because she had no money.
I mean, she's absolutely judgment proof, so if you win nothing. And B, the plaintiff's attorney was owed legal fees that he kind of taken in upon himself, and he went into debt to get the facts. You know, to get the and probably the most frustrating thing about Earl's testimony was Earl testified that he was kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for the results of the civil litigation, you know, to hopefully provide some answers. It did. He didn't look for it. There was 3 statements she gave, 2 of which were under oath, that completely contradicted one another. They're public record. They're in the court file. It wasn't a secret. So for him to say that he sat there and you know, was waiting for the results is just ludicrous. You know, this, but I mean, I'll get over that. You know, get past that. But
Okay, thank you.
yep, no, I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
You know, if you guys need anything, any questions to ask me, I don't. You start to do some county attorney stuff.
We'll call the meeting back to order.
Dr. Bullock.
No.
You're looking pretty sharp today.
The county employee, you know what the standards are.
Quite high, evidently.
All last week I was in meetings, and the one that struck home, and it seemed to be most pertinent to our county, based on the problems that other counties have had, is a class called Essential Records. And because of what happened in Parkersburg with the tornado, Iowa City with the tornado and subsequent flood, and then in Cedar Rapids with the flood, these people lost a great deal of county essential records. Talking to some of the people here in the courthouse, we are in the same boat. If something should happen to this building, God forbid a tornado takes out this building and it's going to hit this one, it's going to hit the one across the street where we store our backups, we're going to have some problems trying to find out what it is our essential records are and how are we going to reproduce them. And there's a number of things that they've talked about, but I would suggest, quite honestly, most people don't know what essential records are. And they talk about prioritizing, and obviously the most essential is that what would we need during the first 24 hours if we had some type of an emergency. And they go on and on about a number of different things, but the suggestion that I would like to make is that the county, the heads of the departments, do an analysis of their risk of their essential records, and then basically an assessment, a risk assessment. And the problem is, or number one, identifying them, and number two, keeping them in a relatively safe place where we would have access to them, that department, if they needed it. But talking to some of the other entities in the county, I'm not really sure what an essential record is, and if there was a problem, how would they retrieve them? Well, they're on my computer. Well, I'm a perfect example. I've had hard drives crash on me on computers all the time, so I've got the carbonite that backs up everything so I can gather it from them. But my concern is that if something that should happen to us, I doubt we're going to be in a flood situation, but if pipes should burst in the basement or something like that, are we going to be able to get to our essential records that we would need? So that's just a
So where do you go, you know, if you're a department head, where do you go to find out from other counties or other entities that have done something about this? Do you have it?
Well, I mean, basically, I could sit down with department heads and go over what they, it was kind of like a train-the-trainer class where they wanted us to come back and, first of all, assess, do we have the necessary backups that we need? And to talk to people about what happens if somebody retires. What they know, is that gone? Or a lot of what they knew goes with them. So basically, there is a PowerPoint presentation that talks about, first of all, identifying your essential records, and then do an assess of the risk. Now, in our case, we're not going to have a river that floods and wipes out our county. But we could have ice storms where we lose electricity, which we've already had. We could have tornadoes. So you talk about looking at, number one, what we consider would be essential records. The next thing you would do is what they call a risk analysis. What risks are out there that we might lose these records because of that? I don't know if you would put tornado or ice storm as high, but at the same time, these people who have lost those records have had a heck of a time trying to reproduce them. And Homeland Security recognizes that, and they're saying, okay, emergency coordinators, you guys go out and at least bring this to the attention of the supervisors and department heads. And where they go from this, you can do nothing, or you can start mitigating where we identify it, and how do we want to protect and secure. Are the records secure enough where somebody can't come in and get rid of them? If this building went, would Ben lose any important information on cases that are going on right now? So those are all things that they brought up that you might consider essential. Birth certificates, these type of things. Do we have backups of any of that, and are they all in one place, or do we have off-sites? So talked to Tina about what was going on there, and downstairs in the basement, which could be subject to a flood, but the backup tapes are high. So the other question would be, does whatever catastrophe might hit, does it hit during work hours, or does it hit when no one's here?
Chances are, when no one's here, I mean, because we're only here 37 hours, so.
We're doing some disk backup as far as
Every night.
Yeah, so but I guess my question goes back towards essential records, and we have 100 and some years of records and old documents.
Well, one of the things that they consider essential is that how difficult would it be to reproduce if all of a sudden you didn't have these records in front of you?
Well, that's where I was headed. You have all this old paper stuff that we're filing in safe. The computer things, you know, as far as having an off-site disk backup, I mean, we are addressing that. But my question comes to what level of importance do you put on 100, 150 years of all these old documents, and what do you do about it?
That's not for me to decide. I think that's for you guys to
Well,
decide.
I'm saying, I guess, you know, you on your current day-to-day things and your computer stuff, I think we're in pretty fair shape. But all this other stuff,
Well, to
we're
me,
trying
that stuff
find.
couldn't be reproduced.
Right.
If we lost it,
That's my point.
that would be essential. So somehow, I mean, if it's all in paper, do you want to make copies of that, scan that and put it to a computer and then provide it to some off-site source?
When I was looking at that our family land transaction on that old book.
We're at a point in time now where there's a lot of people that are looking for Century Farm acknowledgement.
Sure.
And you know, if we didn't have that, there's no way you could prove Century Farm accomplished.
Well, you know, if you're going to address this issue, you almost need to have somebody, an advisor or somebody that puts out proposals probably. What's the most economical way to back this? All the deeds and mortgages
Right.
and legal descriptions and the assessor's office, all that. You know, there's probably companies that,
Recorder's office as well.
you know what I mean, Jim? That
Yeah.
There's probably people,
That-
then you got to figure out, you know, prioritize, because.
Exactly. And they consider priority one would be something that you would need, in their example, priority one is something that you would need in the first 12 hours of an emergency. Obviously, those records would not be considered priority one. They would be considered essential. Priority two, they said what you would need in the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, these are things that now something, let's say, wiped out this building. Okay, but at the same time, with those records that we're talking about, if this building got wiped out, would we have a record of it? Do we have a backup of it? And that's what Parkersburg, and Cedar Rapids, and Iowa City, and let alone Joplin, all of these entities have had serious problems with, we've lost essential records, and now it's a monumental task to try and get that information back. So, do we mitigate and try and figure out to alleviate a monumental task? Okay, my job is to bring it forth and to recommend that the department heads do some type of an assessment and a risk analysis.
A lot of our old documents are vaulted, correct? And so those would be relatively solid, but you have, like on the ground floor level, anything that might be stored in the auditor's office, but a lot of that's vaulted as well, and recorder's office as well.
Is that watertight?
They're not, that vault is not waterproof, and it's certainly not fireproof, because there's a window in there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think it would be safe from a tornado if it would suck that window out. Half of those books would go right out with the glass.
And so that those are, but those two are on the ground floor.
The recorder and the auditors, all the history of Sac County is in basically those two vaults.
Along with what's vaulted downstairs.
Yes.
We just got a full-time job to get all that.
Quite a number of years ago, there was a group of people that came, and I think they were affiliated with the church in Salt Lake City. And they came and scanned all of the old birth and death records. And of course, that's all part of that genealogy thing now. You know, so I don't know what that has to do with preservation of what's here now, but it never was continued. You know, when they did what they did, they left, and from that day forward, nothing's been really memorialized in any other way. But when they suggest off-site, or what'd you call it, essential records preservation,
Right.
how far away do you store them?
Well, I mean, they used an example. They had a safety deposit box of a lot of backup records in Iowa City. Unfortunately, they were on the very bottom box and they flooded. So they lost those out too. Now, if they were up 6 feet high, would they have preserved them? Yes, in that particular case. But in the safety deposit box is where they were. So when you say off-site, I wouldn't say across the street at the annex, but maybe in one of the banks and insist on safety deposit box being up high or something like that. Those were the examples that they used of saying off-site. They also have companies, as an example, with my computer and all of the EMA documentation. Carbonite, an off-site place, backs it up every 24 hours. Well, okay, and I'm sure my little computer compared to what goes on in this courthouse is minuscule, but there are companies that will do that and keep that as an off-site, as opposed to just saying, okay, I'm taking this disc and putting it across the street. The big emphasis is on number one, most records are not essential. We could get along without them. That was one of the first things they said. They're considering that, by their definition, the first thing they asked was that, what is essential? And most common reaction is, well, all of my records are essential. And it comes to find out that about 10% of the records are really essential.
So what's identified in that 10%? Did they say what that would be?
Essential records are necessary for emergency response, are necessary to resume or continue operations, protect the health, safety, property, and rights of residents, would require massive resources to reconstruct, documents the history of communities and families. Those are the 5 things that they put in as quote-unquote essential records.
Well, that pretty much includes everything in my vault. I mean, that's the history of Sac County.
I suggest we get rid of your window.
We've mitigated it. There you go. My job is done.
You're done.
Well, we just invested in a fire alarm system.
We did that.
Have any of the old records been microfilmed at all?
I don't think any of the land records have been microfilmed.
Recorder's
Or the
office
company
has
that do
microfilm.
this.
Yeah.
The recorder's office has done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Some
on
of it.
microfilm, but then to find the microfilm
So
machine
a big
that
thing, you
works
know,
is
Yeah,
hard.
that's the next thing.
We wanna
I
make
did
sure we
do
have
checking into
everything in
that.
place to continue taxing people and raising.
Well, sure. I mean, what if you lost that?
You know, there's a lot of overlap between the assessor, the treasurer, and the recorder, and I'm not,
Well, even the vaults we
smart enough
have
to figure out.
in the treasurer's office, I don't think, they're shut up at night. They aren't shut up, are they?
Oh, yeah. The
what-
treasurer's vault is,
Is it?
yeah. And we shut the doors on my vault. I mean, not, the locks don't work on those, but we
Yeah,
do
but
shut
the doors are
those.
shut.
We do shut those steel doors so that,
But it's still, I mean, we did make an effort towards the fire part of it, but that still doesn't take care of water and tornado.
A natural disaster or
Well-
hazardous material.
You know, we go out to the secondary roads property, we build a bunker, a glorified basement, you know, 12-inch walls. It's never going to flood. I mean, that property floods most of North America's.
Right.
But fire and tornado, so we own the property, it's somewhat removed from this. You just build a bunker and have, you know, backup records in the bunker.
Now, the only suggestion, this is something else, is that have a controlled environment in the bunker as far as humidity goes and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
you got
because-
generators, backup generators,
Right.
dehumidifiers.
As I sit and think about this, I mean, you've got two different thoughts, two different courses of action that you might take, and that is to do something like that to preserve the current documents you have, or to try and make a duplicate.
Sure.
I mean, you have two different ways to address the thing.
Be interested,
The
you know,
third-
next week when we're in Iowa City, you know, how we often visit with other, the informal site, we can talk to other.
Well, yeah, talk to the guys at Iowa
you know,
City.
See how they do it in Carroll County or Greene County or.
what'd you find out, Tina?
There is other counties doing it. I just got that because I
Which
contacted
route
Tyler.
are they doing, Tina? The
I
duplication
don't.
or the?
I just got the email this morning. All he told me was there are other counties, because I asked him about the external backup, you know, sending the backup somewhere else at night, like his carbonite. And he said there are other counties doing it, but he couldn't tell me right offhand which counties it was to contact him and ask him what they've been doing.
Well, the computer part is the easiest one. It's
Sure
all
is.
the,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all the
The-
old documentation.
That carbonite though, they have, the servers might have to have something special. If you just
Oh,
want to
really?
back up the servers, that carbonite, what I read on them, they want to update everybody's, or, you know, keep track of everybody's individual computer. Well, we really just need the 3 servers backed up.
Yeah, if
They
everything
can
goes
do
down
it.
into the server, then that's all you need.
Yeah.
But that doesn't address the other.
No, it
Part of
doesn't.
it.
And that was the concern that these other communities have run. And I don't think that this is just something that we should address in the county. I'm going to bring it up at a commission meeting, that our municipality should be considering this also. But it doesn't address the fact that that was the big thing that they showed after a water pump was in the basement. These volumes were there, and they had to ship them all to Texas and go through that freeze-drying process. And that was one of the things that they mentioned, that they were trying to get those records back and then figure out a way of how we're going to reproduce these so that this isn't the only record. So
Maybe, if we have a department head meeting in the next 20, 30 days, that could be a discussion. It could be.
I can present a PowerPoint, a relatively brief one. The state would be willing to come out and make a presentation. I can make arrangements for that if you want the department heads to sit in on that. It was a 7-hour class. No.
We'll take your shorter version.
Okay. But, basically, my job right now is I just wanted to get you guys aware that I think we are vulnerable in this area, and where we go is up to you.
Just, along these lines, from a strategic planning point of view, do we have any, if this thing would burn down tonight, we know what our insurance proceeds would be, we don't have a plan of.
All that does is replace the building. And the
Equipment.
equipment, it doesn't replace I mean, if there was a way to reproduce it, the insurance would probably cover that, but we
It
don't
says
have a way
building
to
and contents.
Yeah. I mean, if everything, if all those books burnt, there'd be no way, any amount of insurance.
Ron, are you backing up yours on a daily basis? Secondary runs?
I don't think we do it on a daily basis. I think I think she's been doing it like weekly and taking one of those disc off site.
Oh,
That's just her computer. And of course, now that we're online with payroll and
Like
claims, we don't have to back up any of that stuff out there because it should be backed up here.
The first argument to that would be what happened if her hard drive crashed on Thursday. Then you've lost that week's.
Yeah.
Not if she's doing it daily.
We have
Oh,
daily
it's on
backups
secondary roads, all of your stuff.
Our
now is-
payroll and claims go through.
here, so they're
Through the
backed up
mainframe.
here.
Well, I know, I'm talking about more of their business aspect of it, I think payroll and claims would be relatively easy to reproduce, but it's the other part. That was one of the things that they commented about, is that you can have a person who retires or a person who has all of their information on a computer. That would be a technological loss if something happened to that computer. So now, again, if it's only a week, then you might be able to reproduce that week. But if it's all on a flash drive or something like that for the last year, that could create a problem. So, okay, that's basically what I wanted to say.
Jim, when we get back from Coralville next week, I'll get a hold of you and we'll talk about it, set up the department head meeting,
Okay,
kind of work it around.
okay.
Jim, on this incident command school, how many meetings?
We only have 8, and we need
We haven't
15.
signed up. Are we going to sign up? It's on a Saturday and Sunday, the 19th and 20th. And I've got to know, because I'll get a hold of them, I've got to.
If they do not get 15, the class will be canceled. And right now, there is 8.
Of November?
Yeah.
Right.
I can do that. Next week I'm going to be gone, but
19th and 20th. What about you, Dan?
I think
I could sign us 3 up. I'll do that on the computer today.
that'd be fine.
Okay.
19.
So,
That's 11.
Yeah.
What class is this?
Incident Command, IS 300 and IS 400. And if you ever have to be involved as a decision maker for an incident, that's the one that you would be obligated to.
What hours will
He
those
might
be?
get involved with it as county engineer.
Well,
FEMA one time said you're supposed to have, and I can't remember what level. Is it
200 to
100,
700,
200?
well, 100 is, as a department head, it would probably be 100, 200, and 700. But, and those you can take online.
Yeah.
What are the plans for hours on those days?
I believe it starts at 8 to 4, and typically they get done early.
On both days?
Yes, yeah.
It's Saturday?
Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, if we thought that because of fire departments, fire chiefs, police chiefs, and so on, because we would have it on, if it was during a weekday, we would probably not get guys leaving work to come to this class. So now, there are other classes in Clay County and Sioux County also that you could take like 300 here and a 400 or vice versa someplace else. There are other places that
Yeah, I've got
being
a
offered.
list.
Yeah, so if the Sunday doesn't work out on one, it might work out on another.
But we could come on a Saturday and not come on a Sunday. and
Yes.
still get-
Yeah, 'cause you have to register
You'd have the
for-
300 course probably.
Yes.
You can just do it Saturday and you don't have to come Sunday.
Well,
But you'd have
that
to
means
pick
you
up
get
the
an
Sunday
IS
school.
300. Realistically, look, to be totally honest with you, if you guys had 300, that's fine. But are you going to be incident commander with a hazardous material spill? No. Are you going to be incident commander with a fire or a tornado? No. Technically, you are the incident commander, but you would relinquish incident command to whoever has a lot more knowledge with regards to that. But they would prefer that you understand the concept of incident command as an incident commander. That's what 300 and 400 is all about. Literally, 400 is about joint command. So if we had a foreign animal disease here, Pocahontas, Buena Vista, and Woodbury County, there would be joint command. That's all 400 is. If you want my opinion, the feds will be involved on a joint command type thing.
So the Saturday one is really
The Saturday one is
Most
the one that's
specific.
most important. 400 is just joint command. All right?
Okay, I'll tie this up today.
Sunday's off.
If we don't show up for the 400,
No, it's not, yeah, it's not, right now, there's only one person signed up for the 400. I think everybody literally knows, they've been told what I just told you. I wasn't supposed to tell you that, but I've been through them all, so.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
I know.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Your turn in the hot seat.
I didn't think you guys had anything under, Jim.
Well,
We did, that's always our busiest one.
Way over, I thought, well, I wonder if they'll still be here.
We had a good morning.
Thank you.
County crew, grading gravel roads. We are blading through any of the dust controls that are rough. Like I said, we got a few of them was leaving. Hope we'll get a little bit more moisture and if they're in good shape. Repairing culverts on Yankee Avenue north of 310th Street. Filling driveways in Cedar and Boyer Valley Township. Investigating a hole in the county road ditch on Rolfe Avenue north of 310th, possibly an old abandoned artesian well. Replenishing and sand stockpiles at the 3 shops. Project update, patching. We're patching right now on N27. And we'll be moving to M43 next. And possibly we'll get done this week. Highway 20 update, Taylor is closed. Mike called me after I made this out. It says they're actually putting rock on there today, so sounds like possibly that might get open later this week too. Paving contractor, they've got about 5 miles of eastbound lanes paved. They're about 5 miles east of N28 on the eastbound lanes. They're getting about half mile a day. I mean, some days they're getting a little more than that. Some days with cold weather, they've had to delay starts in the morning. And but about 2 days they can get a mile done, and they didn't work last Saturday, and they're planning on working this coming Saturday. I think they got a few days this week. They might lose a day or two, but next week it sounds like they might not be bad.
Will they go clear to 4 and then jump sides and come back this
Yeah.
way then? Is that the plan?
That's what the plan is. I know they had quite a, at the meeting last week, I know they said they had quite a few baskets out, and I'm not sure how far out they had the baskets ahead, but the DOT was indicating to them that they didn't want them left set out there over winter time. They're gonna have to pick them back up
Ooh.
if they didn't get it paved. So even though they had a bunch of them out there ahead, they didn't have them staked down. But you know, they're gonna. It sounds like they're gonna keep going probably at least till Thanksgiving, and then they'll look at the weather forecast and see what's coming and sort of decide whether or not they're gonna continue to run it. Here's a couple of pictures. Here's a couple of pictures I took Friday morning. That's right south of Larry Ellis's. That was a night, it was sort of cold overnight, and they had covered with plastic.
Look how thick that is. Is that, again,
10.
is it 10? I was going to say it's at least 8.
Yeah, it's 10 and a quarter or something. It's 260 millimeters, I think is what it is. And then they've got about 8 inches of rock down underneath it. But they are covering the intersections, even if it doesn't call for covering the intersections, they are covering the intersections with burlap. That way they can get them open about a day quicker. Otherwise, it's taking about 3.5 days to get the cure time. So they're driving on the first probably 3 miles or 2.5 miles.
Oh, are they really? Because last I knew they were going down in between.
Trucks, cement trucks.
Cement trucks can drive on it that soon?
Yeah.
They were driving on the in between at first, but they were just crossing it and then down in the dirt.
And that's what they're doing now. They'll drive the new until they get to a section that's not cured. They'll pull off on the drive on alongside.
I was sitting there thinking that weight on and off the side of that intersection, going on and off the paving wasn't good.
Yeah. And if you got time, want to look at them. Some of you guys were at the Highway 20 meeting last week, were you? And you can go to their website, but they've got a PowerPoint presentation, a bunch of slides they took. October 5th, I think is what it said. And they were running that during the US 20 meeting the other day. I'll skip to item 5, I guess, maybe talking about more Highway 20 stuff. They did have the bid letting on the bridges over there at Highway 71. And overpass there at 71, and Graves Construction got those 2 bridges for $1.5 million. I guess I didn't look. They asked to find out what the completion date and how many working days there was, but they did talk at the meeting a little bit about the report from the Transportation 2020 Citizens Advisory Commission. Basically, it's talking about the 8 to 10 cent gas tax, and then increasing the new vehicle fee from 5% to 6%. That would generate, I think, it's about another $50 million.
But again, that only gets Iowans.
Right. Right. Again, the commission's report is gonna suggest that the existing cap at times is left in there so that the distribution system goes back to the 47 half for,
That's good.
you know, state, 33 for counties and 20. But, you know, they did say it's still gonna be a struggle to try to get the legislative to take it on and get it passed, so it's going to be important that we stay in contact with our legislatures as that comes up. But, and that full report, I think, goes to the commission, I think it's in the next couple of weeks. The final report, I've seen the draft report was out or had been sent out, I didn't download it, I think it was 47 or 49 pages, I didn't download it to read it. But the full report's supposed to be out fairly soon. They had these photos running during the meeting that, I don't know who took those deals?
Oh, did he?
They've got, you know, here's intersection 7120 will be north of Ridley.
Change that angle. There, that's good. That better.
Yeah, I can see.
They basically start from the west end, and these are all on the
DOT website.
well, not the DOT, it's the Highway 20, US 20 Association website. It's a PowerPoint presentation there. But they've got a few there early, and then here's Lee Avenue, that's a gravel road. Then there's no, that's Lee. There's M50, this is before it was paved. They paved it about a week after.
We and maybe we'll get this when we talk about 4, but both Dean and I crossed M50, and that one where they cross is level as can be, and yet
Not level, it's got a
well, it's got a
vertical
little
curve.
but it's certainly not a divot.
Right,
And-
the
and-
center 150 feet of that will come out when they pave.
Oh,
through.
so it may end up a divot.
Oh, yeah, it will.
It will.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Part of, that intersection was not supposed to be graded. It was supposed to be just like M54 up here. It was not supposed to be graded until they came through the paving, as part of the paving contract. But Moina contractor, I don't know, they did some kind of value engineering, they call it, and basically convinced the DOT to add that to his grading contract. And I said, well, that's fine, but if you're going to do that, we've got to have that hard surface before winter. Originally, they were going to put asphalt in there, just a 3-inch.
It looks pretty nice, doesn't it?
It looks really nice.
It does.
Well, and that's what they're going to do is first we just put asphalt in, and then I think with asphalt prices the way they are, and Cedar Valley sitting with their plant over here, they got a price from Cedar Valley, and so everything but the center 150 feet will stay as it is. They just added a little vertical curve in through the middle there, so it would ride at 50 mile an hour.
Oh, it's very nice.
So it's actually thinner there. I think the outsides, they actually poured 10 inches on the outside there, and I think the center 150 fits 6 inches thick, but that'll all come out when they get their main line.
So, did you get a response from them on our questions about having a?
They were going to look at it.
You haven't heard back?
I haven't heard back. I mean, I looked at the plans that I had, and it shows a 3% slope, which is the same slope as what the turning lanes are. And that's supposed to just continue on down through the median and back up. So, try to see.
Dean, we were talking when we were in recess. Dean said he had looked at some of them towards the east, and
Like, New 20 going through county, they're all level,
No, they should be level. They should have.
a little bit of that.
They should have a dip in them. I mean, when you get over past Moreland, then a lot of them are almost
Yeah.
flat, and I think they've discovered that they've had issues with drainage and
I see.
so they were, well, and I go back to one of the first project management team meetings they had when the design people came out with their design, and they were flipping through pages, and design people like to keep it so they don't have to move a lot of dirt. They try to balance what they call balance the dirt, so they don't move a lot of dirt. But for maintenance and snow removal, those people like to see the pavement up in the air so it blows clean. So I remember every page them guys that turn, the maintenance guys say, get it up in the air, get it up in the air. You know, forget about trying to balance the dirt. The extra cost you're going to pay for moving some dirt and getting it up in the air is going to be recouped in maintenance, snow removal. And I think when you get east of Moreland, they didn't do that. I mean, that was built.
Well, east of Moreland is better than east of Fort Dodge. In the original 20 between Webster City and Fort Dodge, it's almost flat.
Yeah.
And when they did that section from Fort Dodge to Moreland, they brought it up considerably. And now this road is
Yeah.
up another foot or two.
Yeah.
A lot more
Yeah.
clay. They have a lot more clay in.
And I think they, you know, over there toward Fort Dodge, there isn't a whole lot of slope in the median. It almost goes flat across there. And I think, I don't know whether there's drainage issues or what, but
I just, when a lot of folks are gonna cross that, whether it be with trucks or loaded wagons, it seems like a bad idea to me that.
well, when I was arguing with them about the 4%, 2%, I went back and was reading in some federal highway regulation as far as what is a standard slope at intersection and stuff. And basically, that information there says that up to 3% slope, people really don't notice it, but once you start getting over 3%, then it becomes more of an issue, you know, as you're pulling up there. And that, you know, that's when I found out that other places they were using 2% on the approach. I guess I have not done any research to try to figure out whether the medians are, you know, on this project are any different than what they've done like on Highway 60 or Highway 30. I guess I, you know, researched that. You know, I did point out to them that, you know, there were some comments that you know, they thought it was, you know, steeper than they had been, and I asked the paving contractor what they'd done over there in Rockwell. They actually paved, Cedar Valley paved from N65, the old county home road, to Moreland, and they led me to believe that those were all 3% slopes there too. So
It's hard to judge when you're sitting in a vehicle or crossing it, but it seems like it's quite a bit on N28.
yeah, you almost have to take a level out there and take some shots.
But, I mean, you noticeably tip down.
Let's see, I think it's about 68 feet from edge of main line to edge of main line. So 34 feet each way.
Boy, it sure seems like more than 3%. It's
And in 34 feet, that'd be 1 foot of drop at 3%.
that's all it would be.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is.
I don't have to pull a string across there, I'll take a level and take some shots. I can maybe get our survey crew to check some of them in Calhoun County. I'm trying to think, they shouldn't be paving any more medians until they get to 4, and if they come back, I would be surprised if they pave medians, but they might start paving some of the medians as they come back. They leave some of that handwork to do on days when, you know, crews there, they need something to do while they're waiting to get started in the morning, and maybe if the weather's not so nice and they think they can get shut off, they might just take a partial day and pour some of them. But I know they were working on some of those N28 radiuses. I haven't been up there lately to see what they got done.
They've got the framing there. I don't know that they put the cement in.
Okay. Last time I was there, they were forming some of them up.
Yeah.
Kind of week and a half ago. I don't know if you want to look, you know, there's the curve out there Oh, this is Quincy, that's the road we just closed across, that's the one that won't connect. There's our 230th bridge, street bridge, over top of the new grade. Raccoon, well, this picture's actually a better picture there. Here's our 230th bridge, here's the river, and there's the double bridges for Highway 20 over the Raccoon.
How's,
Are they working on that?
yeah, what's going on?
What they said, Dale? They're coming back, but I don't remember when they said they were coming back.
So they're not out.
No, they're not working right now.
It wasn't very long.
Yeah, I think later this month maybe they're supposed to be back and start.
Too cold.
Well, but
All of a sudden you get,
But part of the issue with these big bases that they pour, the hydration of the concrete actually gets too hot. And so they need to cool it down until they can, one way to do is add ice to the concrete when they start pouring it. Otherwise, you wait for cooler weather and let the cool weather take the heat out of it.
I didn't realize that it heated like that.
Because I think if it heats too much, I think it cracks and creates quality issues. Because some of them,
Cold. Keep the shiners in there.
Well, and then, they did ask to cool it with the water, and then they wouldn't let them do that.
I don't remember what those pores are, but I think some of them are like 10 foot thick and, they're probably 40 feet long and I don't know how wide the other one is, 15 feet maybe, so they're massive.
But at the same time, you're getting limited time, and we have very low water level right now.
I think they've got a lot of the stuff in the channel done,
Looks like it.
but I think they've got some others to pour on this side yet, but, some of that stuff in the channel they've got done, but.
So, you get back to springtime, and hopefully we'll have some water in the river again.
Well, I think by spring, they're hoping that they're gonna have all the supports done and have most of the beams set, so when it gets to be spring, they'll be ready to start working on pouring the decks. Pouring the decks, they'll have to wait till, you got a thin slab up there exposed to the air, and they won't try to, there's no way with that high in the air they can try to heat it. Sometimes in the fall of the year, they'll hang plastic or curtains down on both sides and put a heater underneath. But this one's way too long and way too high in the air to try to do that. There's the N14 intersection there, and this is that 2-mile stretch that they're working on now between M54 and N14.
Moving dirt like crazy. They were last week.
Was it up here, are they?
If they're if they're rocking Taylor down, well, that tells me they're gonna be, they're basically have it up to grade at Taylor, so I'm guessing another week or so they'll probably have the main line stuff all up to grade, so.
Yeah, they said that M54 to N14 was 60 to 70% done grading. The Raccoon River to M54 was supposedly done.
And of course, since these pictures were taken, they did pour this other bridge deck, and I think N14, I think they said one bridge needed guardrails or side rails on it and approach slabs. Maybe approach slabs on both of them, I'm not sure, but there's a cedar bridge.
Well, so they did get that second deck.
And the second deck there is poured too. They're hauling water out of this pit.
I was telling them that they have three tanker trucks that are just run all day, and then they've got a generator and a big pump, and they're just constantly filling those tanker trucks.
But these pictures were actually taken before it says it's a concrete plant, but that's where the plant's supposed to go. They haven't got, all they had at that time was that, I don't know what you would call it, unloading station or whatever. Now there's three belts coming out of that to feed the plant that's sitting over there. If they would have been a week later with their pictures, the plant would have been up, because they took these pictures about 2 days before the plant came in. These are all, and then there's Highway 4. You can see they got rock all the way to 4 and then started back. I think they're about 3 miles coming back with the rock on.
So you said they were 5 miles out, how many miles in that stretch?
12 about, I think.
So they're not quite halfway.
No, not quite half. Anyway, if you go, if anybody else wants to look at it, I think if you type in www, the number 4, lane, and then 20, the number's 20.com, you can get that PowerPoint.
When you say Taylor is closed for a month, is that through the month of November?
Well, I put that on there back, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was part of October, part of November, or...
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'd have to go back and look, I didn't put down when I first put that on there, but.
Several people have asked when it was gonna be open.
Mike said they were putting some rock on it this morning, so I'm guessing it'll be closed. They might, if the weather cooperates, they might get it open yet this week.
Yeah, it was WW4,
The letter 4,
yeah,
and then lane,
Lane,
LANE.
and 20.com. Either that or you can go to the Sac County Shirley.
SETD.
Yeah, SETD.
Yeah, but she had something, and I went through her stuff last night, and she had some of those pictures.
And I think it's got a link on there that gets you to the Highway 20 Association, that gets you there, and then
Oh,
I think the second, when I was on the other day, it was the second article down, that was these pictures, and actually they've got some pictures on there from last summer and earlier too. I guess the only other thing, they did have the meeting last week on the Highway 196 reconstruction from Old 20 to about 3/4 miles south. I had several questions for them that I need to get answered on. One is a detour. They're trying to say they don't need to do a detour. I think they need to, so need to stay on top of that. They didn't really have the answers for as far as what they're going to do with the signing out there. When, the project they were talking about the other day is scheduled for summer of 2014. But they didn't really have the answers, or at least the people that were there didn't have the answers for how they were going to sign the intersection out here with Old 20 when they get the N14 reconstructed north of there. I assume they'll leave it the way it is, but Old 20 traffic will go straight through it.
Did they get back to you on that turning lane business, or you haven't heard from that either?
They aren't, I mean, there's no plans to. Turning lane.
Well, but he said they were gonna, right, they said they had no plans to do it, but they were gonna double check it again and get back to it.
Was he?
Yeah.
I would guess, unless they get a lot of comments either at the public hearing or people write in afterwards, I don't know that they'll change that, because I think they're already negotiating with Gilbreth on how much they're going to buy it. If they put a turning lane in there, they'd have to buy more.
Well, Sutter and Kettering and I were, and that might have been after you had stepped back, but we were asking them for the justification as to why they would do one direction and not the other. And they had, the man who responded said that their head count or their data indicated that they didn't need one going the other way, and but yet he was going to check on it because that didn't really make sense.
Well, won't that data change when that highway 20 gets open?
Absolutely. That's
not hard to figure.
Right, and we said, well, is that old data, or is that something that you might anticipate?
Yeah.
And he didn't answer that.
Yeah. there can't
I mean,
be
usually
more.
they project what they think the turning traffic's going to be, but until it actually happens, they don't. It's just a estimated guess on how much turning traffic is going to be. And they typically leave a copy of that aerial with us, but for some reason, they didn't know why either, but the design people from Ames are supposed to come to those public hearings or public meetings, and they didn't show up, and there's the ones that's supposed to bring the aerial for the presentation, so they usually give me the one they bring, but they wrote a bunch of stuff on it, so they didn't have one to leave with us, so I requested that I get one.
They're on the southwest part of that intersection where Jim Galbraith has a pasture there, that's where they're gonna get their get their dirt for their borrow pit, to do this dirt changing around.
Yeah, I didn't look at the plans that close, how high are they raising the bridge? I think they must be raising the bridge, because I know the driveway there into,
Yeah, into Pew's, he said that it was gonna be up,
like 3 feet maybe?
yeah, I thought I heard 2, but I'm not positive.
I know they were following, was it a 12% grade? I think Pew's were a little concerned about that and wanted to know whether they could follow, go out further to flatten that down. I heard part of that conversation, but, and of course there, the plans showed that where Jeff Kruger lives, on the top of the hill there, that they're gonna buy that whole building site.
Was that a,
For more borrow?
No, just because to get the standard cross-section with the new design standards as far as the slope, shoulder width, four-slope bottom ditch, and then coming back up.
Oh, the house is too close to the
Proximity, yeah.
Yeah, two houses too close
He's
to the
gonna be
road.
able to jump out his window into the ditch.
Yeah,
under the truck.
I don't know. I don't know. Again, I didn't look at the plans that close. I'm not, and then there's the project stopping just south of him, what, a quarter mile?
it's not very far.
I mean, I guess, why didn't they stop it north of him and not?
Well, the question came up about the balance of that in the next project. I thought I heard 2015 for doing the curve and the intersection where what's up, going to Lakeview.
Going south? Yeah, I guess
Did I not hear that?
I didn't ask, and I guess I didn't hear it when I was there.
I thought, did you hear that too? Because I thought that came up
Because the
somewhere.
other bridge was in 2015, I heard that.
But I think I think they were doing that together is why
Same thing.
I think so. And that-
Raccoon River Bridge replacement 2015.
And didn't that include the intersection? I think so too. That's why I thought I,
Do they have a project that to do anything with the rest of 196 as far as redesigning it?
Nah, nothing they said to me.
I thought it included the second bridge and the intersection in 15. I thought I heard that.
Yeah, they'll probably start just north of that bridge and then reconstruct that whole piece.
The whole
back-
hill.
Back to the south, but then they're still gonna have an old section of 196, between these two projects that, when are they gonna do anything with that?
That never came up. Or at least not, what we heard.
Anyway,
Are you gonna be here next week? Tuesday night, we're going down to Ice.
I'm not gonna go to ISAC. So yeah, I'm planning on being here next week. I mean, unless I've got more, I don't really, even this morning, except for looking at some of this stuff on Highway 20, I guess I didn't really have a whole lot.
We have city election results for Kansas next month.
Are you planning to do that on Tuesday or Monday or
Probably Tuesday.
Tuesday morning? Okay.
You made a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Once a week.